On today's show, we have Mr. Patrick LaRouge. Patrick is a man after my own heart. I love the way he thinks, very brilliant mind, very, very creative and curious like myself. And he and I met at the biohacking conference in Dallas, but I was super busy. I didn't have a lot of time to really connect with him. So I invited him to my place here in Harlem. We got a chance to really share some of our knowledge and experience around all the different biohacking tools. And he has a really unique way of teaching people how to turn on muscles that atrophy or that go to sleep. So if you want to learn how to wake up your body and optimize your overall health and wellness, you definitely want to check out this episode. It's a joy. Enjoy this. Back to Walking the Talk. Peace.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
Man, Josh, thank you so much for having me. So I appreciate you already.
Yes, sir. Well, this is a really good opportunity for the people that are watching and listening to the show to get a chance for you and I to get to know each other more, right? We had the opportunity, the great fortune of being able to meet each other at the 10th annual biohacking conference. And I remember that was a wild time because I was at the Vivo Barefoot booth, and there was all of these companies that specialize in brain enhancement and, fitness enhancement and all these things. Yet we were the only company talking about foot health, right? Vivo Barefoot was there talking about foot health. And amongst all the people that came through, you really impressed me with some of the questions you were asking and also your knowledge about all things grounding and earth connection. And then you asked me some questions that made me think, okay, this dude is on a different level. So that's the reason why I wanted to reconnect with you. And then also, for those of you that really follow what I do, you may have seen some content that was shared when Patrick came over to my place. He was one of the first people to come to my place to kind of experience some of the things behind the scenes, right? So we had a true opportunity to connect, and today is going to be an opportunity for me to learn more about you so that my audience can hopefully connect with you and empower their lives even more. So I'd love to start there. I'd love to start with, what is your background? Like, how did you get to being where you are today?
That is a 24-year-old story that is easily set by saying, like, I like to buck against the walls. I'm not conventional in the way of anything that I do. And the more a person told me I couldn't do something, the more I had to prove it to myself that I could. And that's something that's always been here. But the way that I learned how to help everyone and the way that I learned how to do anything is based off of trial and error. Learning how to make mistakes and then getting tricked into the right position because I believe in the universe in that way. So the universe put me in the right place at the right time for a lot of different things, from starting off as a massage therapist in '99 and realizing really fast, because I used to play basketball, I dislocated carpals, that I wouldn't last long in the massage world. And that's what got me into massage school. Was my dean at the time said, you're not going to last very long because you dislocate carpals and your wrists are always hurting. And the fact that she was right that got me to no one tells me I can't do anything. Got into massage school. Once I got into massage school, the fact that she was right, hated it. And I learned everything to heal myself. So the first 2 years of being a massage therapist, I learned everything I needed to do so I can be a massage therapist. I then quickly learned that just moving around meat is the easiest way. Poking and hoping is the other way I put it. Didn't really work. And I had to start learning more and more. So as I started to hurt myself more and more, last ditch effort, universe sent me to the energetic world. And that's where I healed my eyes. I had my first rapid healing of my eyes where I went from not being able to see, like I used to play basketball almost completely blind. So my jumper sucked, horrible, free throws, horrible, but put me down low because I was small, quick, and fast. I was able to dunk at that time, and I was just under 6, right? Everybody underestimated me and we couldn't do it. I was showboating after a dunk, slammed the floor, popped both carpals. That's all she wrote for that. But when I went to the healing in my eyes, I was pressurized, and this is going to be where we're going to end up today, is your nervous system has to go to a certain height in order for you to now let go of all your beliefs and new things happen. So I was in front of a room being asked, like when you go to any seminar, so what do you want to come out of this seminar? But my mentor at the time, I didn't know that, energetically was pushing on me. And he was like, I was like, I just want to be financially free and I want my business to be great. And he was like, that's bullshit. That's not what you want. And he kept on going. He kept on going. He kept on going. And eventually I was just like, I don't know. I just want my eyes to heal. He's like, okay. And he walked away. And it was just like that. It was hard. And all of a sudden it flipped. He was like, okay. He walked away. And I was in Vegas at the time. And I was at do you know Vegas? Because you travel all over the place.
I do.
I was in the old section of Vegas looking at the new section. So I was able to see the stratosphere from the old corral. I don't think it's there anymore, but I was a high percher and I was able to see it. And I don't know if you wear contacts or glasses, but we all have a move. When our glasses are dirty, we take it off and we clean it. And so I was able to see the stratosphere from the old section, and I didn't have my glasses on. And you're going to know very, very quick, I don't really shut up often. And that was the first time I was really, really speechless. I was just like, and I was able to see it relatively clear. And then within that next year of my life, I squandered that gift to build my first part of my practice, which saying you can heal anything. Because I just told you I healed my eyes. I was able to see. But based off of belief system and habits, I kept on putting them back on. And when I was 29, when I was 30, I learned that my one of the traumas that I went through as a child, I have 3 other brothers, older brothers, is once upon a time I had my glasses on top of my head and I was freaking out because I couldn't see anything. And I had to find my glasses. And my brothers teased me so much because they saw the glasses on top of my head, but I wasn't present inside my body, that I was just sitting there crying and crying and crying. Ooh. And then I had this habit of never lose your glasses. So even though like right now I can see everything perfectly fine, I'm wearing my lowest prescription to date. I cried, and now I have a hard time letting go of these glasses because of that moment. And that came when I started to learn about generational learning and belief systems. So where was I in the bigger picture? Learn how to heal my eyes. Anybody can heal anything. Fills my practice. Then I started to understand about the organism and the system itself. So I started to understand why every human body falls apart, energetic system, and then why the brain falls apart. And that's where the Freedom Mastery experience came about. And now we're 2016, 17. And I started to really dial in. It's never just one thing that you need to do. You have to do things on the mental, emotional world. You have to do things in the physical and optimizing your physical body, not just able to move, but how well does it process information energetically, as well as how well you connect it to your spiritual, energetic, higher self. All 3 of those hit. That's where flow state is, as well as that's where you're able to manifest anything. So my job is no matter where a person lies, I have to get them, either if they're depressed and low, I have to get their body to dial in there so we can chunk up. And the more and more I can get that to chunk up, the faster I can get them to move into just about anything in that way.
I think anyone listening up to this point or watching up to this point, they must be questioning, like, or at least asking themselves, hoping that I ask the question, how did you heal your eyes? Like, what process did you go through to embark upon that journey?
The first one was how I believe majority of people that are headstrong are going to have to learn is they get put out their comfort zone and they have no clue that they're able to do it. So because I was in front of the room and someone was challenging me, my nervous system went to a state where I couldn't have a belief. I went into a state of just react, go, 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 which you hit your natural state. So if you're running from a bear or a lion, you pick up a car, you hear all the stories of parents doing amazing feats for their kids is because they no longer think, they just let their body respond and act.
And
so
how are they challenging you? Like in
So
what way?
just by calling me out, and I do it to a lot of my clients, I ask them questions, rapid questions, get them going so their brain can't process what I'm doing. And then the nervous system responds, and they're going to show me how much they hate the thing that they're going on, or if they're just going to defeat and deflate, which then I have to work on that. So when he did that, I set the intention. I was at a 2-day long energetic seminar where then we retreated inside and we learned about energetics. We learned about how I learned how to feel my body. I learned how to feel my energy. And once I learned how to feel my energy and I had that intention, my body worked on its own. And the fact that I didn't hold on to the belief, I didn't hold on to this is what I'm doing. I just like, oh, this was happening. And I didn't believe it was going to happen. I never slowed it down. So when I woke up the next morning, it was literally the next morning. When I woke up the next morning, I was able to see. And it was that rapid. And that's how fast your body can heal. Now, because I kept on playing with it, I kept on putting on my glasses, I fed an old belief system because I watched one of your podcasts and you were talking about the neural patterns. Just because you change a belief, you reprogram something, that doesn't mean that habit loop is not gone. So I kept on putting on my glasses, and the way that I used to do it is like, you can heal anything. I would work on somebody on a massage table. You can heal anything. Look, I can tell you that I wore glasses. I used to be really, really blind. You can tell me anything. I would take off my glasses and I would be able to read anything from far away. And then I'll put on my glasses like, see, you can do it. And at that time, my eyes were still fluctuating and it burned as hell to do it. So I would tear or cry. It was very dramatic for me to do it, but I did it so often that I learned a skill of how to fluctuate my eyes. I could tell you all the different reasons why I'm struggling now to get back to that place, but it's all based off of the fact that after I got the rapid healing, I went back to an old mechanism, and now I fortified that old mechanism to stay there. So then I needed to learn, why did my eyes stop working? What was happening inside me? And at that time, I had to go through all my old traumas. I needed to go through that now in order for me to be able to lower my vision. So I went from, in New York, 6.0 is legally blind. And this was back in 2000 when I looked it up. 2000, 6.0s, and I was at 475. So literally I would take off my glasses and things would literally disappear. That's why I really need to get really close to the hoop in order to score. So I really was really good at knowing how to get in the box. But I don't know if anybody would understand.
Hope and poke.
But I was really good at that. So I learned now that I need to go through the traumas. And now after that to answer your first question, how did I do it? It was dumb luck and somebody punted it. And I was able to do it because I wasn't stopping your body's natural reaction to heal. Second is after I learned that I was losing it, because once you get $1 million and you lose it, $1 trillion, the best thing that you can ever get and you lose it, you fucking hurt. Even though you were there in the first place and it was comfortable with you, just getting back anywhere near to where you were is the worst feeling in the world. Because you're like, I just squandered something horrible. And I remember sitting on, like, it was one of those crybaby moments, but sitting down crying is like, I can't see anymore. What happened? What did I do wrong? So I need to go through all the things that now fortify my system of getting a person to drop their nervous system, optimize their body, get all their systems working inside their bodies, and then look into why is your brain doing it. So your eyes is this window to the soul, people say, but it's also the way this organism sees the world. And one of the biggest jumps after I lost my vision and working my way back was when I found out I lived in Brooklyn. My mom was mugged twice, and I was an empath at that time. I'm still an empath. I was an empath, and I was a child at under 7 years old, and that becomes a very specific timeline. So under 7, empath, mom gets mugged, no one's telling anything, but we were extradited out of Brooklyn instantaneous. So I was ripped out of something that we weren't never allowed in our house. It was an oppressive place because we were a port for all the Haitians coming in. So I had to learn not to understand English because no one spoke English. I need to feel all of them. So I was very good at feeling. Mom gets mugged, and then we get extradited out. I was 7 when I went upstate New York. And from there on, we just didn't talk about Brooklyn. And it was because of that. So I had to go through all that as a 28, 29, 30 years old kid and reprocess that emotions. And then instantaneously, my eyes started to see the world. So in short, I healed my eyes because now I found out what my eyes was trying to show me. It didn't want to see the world.
Wow.
So that's why I went blind.
That's one of the common things that I've experienced over my many years of podcasting and interviewing people is that a lot of times the people that I bring onto the show end up building businesses and building, ways to kind of help others through their own healing journey. And that's a very common thing that I see with this show, which is really interesting because it's from experience. I like to call it experiential wisdom, because there's a difference between studying something, taking a test on it, getting certified versus actually experiencing something. And in my world, at least, I feel like that has more impact, more weight than just spouting out a bunch of data and a bunch of statistics and analysis, right? And I know that you are
100%.
Analytical guy. I know you are. I know we're going to show some charts and graphs and things like that and models, right? You're very big into that. But that's what drew me into you, is because even just hearing the story now, I didn't know that about you, but there was something that I felt with you that was almost like magnetic. And I think a lot of it I'm attracted to curious people. You seem like a very curious person. You like to ask questions a lot, right? And I think as much as you like to talk, you also like to ask questions. And I'm working on this project that I didn't even tell you about, that is sort of based around this idea of asking questions to get deeper into a person's psyche. And we'll talk more about that offline. But what I would like to know is, so given all that you just went through and what you experienced and learning how to process your traumas and heal your eyes and things like that, what was that next step? Because I think that's probably one of the most powerful things is what did you do with that?
All right. So what I heard you ask me was, once I learned how to heal my eyes, what did I do with that data?
Or what did you do with the process after that, right? Because like now you've understood that, okay, you have the power to heal yourself. And now what do? You go to the mountaintop and start preaching to the masses about like, hey guys, blah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is where I learned to look and reflect at my journey, and I see it in chapters, and each chapter stacks on itself. Like my whole process goes off of two massive theories: domino theory and game theory. So everything's a game, everything stacks on, it's playful. My whole world. As well as domino theory. One thing leads into the next, which leads into the next. So the fact that I got pwned into becoming a massage therapist got me to learn how to fight and learn all the manual techniques and tricks that get the body to heal, but never stay healed because your energetic system is not working, your spiritual world and everything. Inside that spiritual world, my mentor at that time, like the way that I put it, and energetics is just like martial arts. And I heard that you were also in martial arts, and the way that your father did it is he took many different philosophies and put it into one and made his own in that way. Energetics is like that. My mentor taught me how to be a multiple degree black belt in energetics, not in what people think about when they hear energy work and they think of Reiki. So I know many different aspects of energetics, and I'm very proficient at that. And the first thing he taught me, he was like, yes, you could now always, like I have, you can't see the chart. Like I have these pictures by Alex Gray.
Oh, he's reading. Oh, say
awesome. Yeah. I can show you the book. It's right next to my, in my bathroom, and you look at it and it's awesome. But he showed me one picture, and then he's like, you want to look into this. And I started looking, and the first picture he showed me was the matrix of the world of the person sitting, which is right here on my wall, right to this day. And this was 2007, because right before my son was born. And he was like, think about your energetic career as moving from seeing the matrix in the world that you're in today into being connected with the energy, being one with the energy. Think of those three stages. There's many ways to obtain those stages, and one of them is going to the mountaintop, going inward and saying, but he said, what's the fun in that? And how are you helping the world? Because that's what you want to do. And then he questioned me on that. He's like, is that really what you want to do? Or do you want to be the best person that you want to be? Because then you can go to the mountaintop and then you're done. And I chose, I want to help people. So I learned by leveling myself up. And then I quickly learned I'm only going to level myself up. And this is why I laughed at you and I really am connecting with you, because you said iron sharpens iron. That was one of the first things I was like, oh, this man, I like this man. Right? Like, because as we start growing, we start attracting the people at your level, and those people will start challenging you. And the only way that I can grow is if I find other people at a higher level, chase them down and work with them. And I'm old school where I like to work with them in person and grab them if I'm going to add it to the process. But as I started to learn and as I started to help more people started to get me to understand different aspects of my life. Like I told you, I worked with a couple pro athletes already, but I was immature in my stage of growth. So I didn't really understand and know the time management skill, the respect skill. And I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, not what they needed the most.
Yep.
So early on, I was put into this big stratosphere event, but I wasn't able to hold it. And then I went back into my world and started working better. And now I'm at the place where I can work with anyone at any time, because I understand I'm not here to force my method on them. I'm here to get them to grow. And it's based off of me doing it consistently as I grow, based off the people around me, if that answers the question.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting because we have a lot of similarities, and I respect the level of detail you take into all the things you do. You know, it's like one of the things that was really interesting is, to your point about your old school, you like to connect in person. Whenever you were like, hey, let's connect, I'm like, yeah, let's connect. And here I am thinking we're gonna, do some FaceTime video, and you're like, I'm gonna come up to New York and see you. I'm like, all right, cool. And when you got here, I think you had some ideas in mind, and I had some ideas in mind of what we could do together. And one of the coolest things is that you brought me some squash, right? And like,
that sounds funny to say. This is a little man crush, I guess, but like I like to give gifts to when I go see them, right?
Right. I think it's not even, I don't think it's weird. I think it's something that we should all think about, right? Like one of the things I used to do whenever I would visit someone, even if it was just to visit them, especially if it was like a party or whatever, like I would always bring something that was close, near and dear to me, but that other people would wonder why I brought it. Because I always say this, anytime there's a question, there's an opportunity to educate. And so I'm a person that is not a big drinker. I'm not, I can count on like one or two hands how many times I might have alcohol in an entire year, right? But whenever I would go to a party, I know a lot of times people like to drink, right? It's kind of one of the ways that we get together. And I used to bring this wine called Fit Vine wine. And it's a wine that is
healthier.
It's low sugar, low alcohol content. It's really amazing. And whenever people would see the bottle, it looks like it was made in someone's garage, because I think it was originally, right? It was kind of made by a group of people. But every time I would give it to them, they would always kind of look at it, and you could tell that the gears were going in their brain. And I love those moments because it's another opportunity to educate. Oh, well, what's so interesting about this? I didn't think you drink. Well, if I do drink, I drink this. Why? Well, because of X, Y, and Z. And so now we've gotten out of this whole idea of like how late was a person, or how was the train, or what was the traffic like. It's more like an opportunity to kind of dive deeper into this process of, hey, I am happy that you welcomed me into your home. Here's a gift, right? And so I want to ask you those questions, right? So that people understand why it is that you brought squash, Like, tell me about that.
So I'm a gardener. So it always, and this is what not baffles me, but I still in amazement look at my energetic coach and say, he's still schooling me. So one of the things that he taught me was, the more and more you can expand yourself and lose yourself in something, the more and more you still got them? Man, that means you were cooking, bro.
I'm gonna cook them today.
So he taught me how to expand myself by losing yourself into something.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found at the time, this was 2007. I lived in a little apartment. I didn't know how to garden, especially in an apartment that had, I'm talking about the smallest garden ever. It was the worst grass, worst everything. And I had to redo it. It was underneath metal. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was toxic as hell, that garden. It was underneath metal stairs. I was rusting. It was horrible, but I was able to plant and garden. I would lose myself not by the harvest, by looking at the things growing, because I planted that seed, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole right there. But I learned that. So now owning a house, I set a plan, I tend the garden, I look at that. To get really honest, like I want to nurture a relationship, and this is my best way of doing it, is finding something that I'm nurturing. And I have a really good garden now that's now starting to produce. And we met each other 2 weeks ago. So I was like, look, he would love one of these. And this is naive because you could be like, I hate vegetables because I didn't know. But I was just like, he would love these. Fuck it, let's go. And I came, and then I asked you after the fact. It's like, do you like squash? You're like, yeah. I was like, perfect. That's the way, that's what came out of there. It was something that I love, like you said, doing. And I wanted to give you something because I do believe in, like, you welcomed me into your, I didn't know nobody else came to your house. I thought that's what you did. Right. So now I'm really uber honored and like amazed and touched that you allowed me in your home, and for the first time to be the person to do a small little workout, whatever the case may be. I'm honored now.
Yeah. You know, it is interesting because, you know, obviously I have people over. I've had people come over and hang out, and I've had friends over for different things, but you were the first person that I had just met and then had come over to do all these things, because I think even since you were here, I've added a few new things to my place that you've probably seen on social media. Like I added some, you know, this very cool world travel map on the wall that looks like a puzzle.
You told me about it.
Yeah,
I saw the box. I didn't see it though.
Yeah, it's up. It's finally up. I actually posted a little thing on my Instagram of what it looks like, and then you got a chance to see that solstice clock that I put on the wall, and so, you know, and then I pulled out a lot of my toys, right? And so you were one of the first to do that, and then subsequently, I had one of my clients. It's a husband and wife. They came over, I think, a couple days later to be the first couple that came in to actually do full sessions. Like they use the hyperbaric chamber and, you know, and the magnetomaster and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's what I meant by that, which was really special, because I think we could have spent the whole day together, but I think I had a number of things going on, and you had to get back, you know, to doing what you had to do as well. But I would love to kind of migrate this conversation to more of what you do with your clients and with people, and some of the things you did with me, because that one specific question I remember when we were at the biohacking conference, amongst all of the chaos that was going on, you asked me this question: do you know how to turn on your glutes? I think you specifically said the glute medius or glute minimus, right?
Upper glute, not to glute maximus, your upper glute.
Yes. And I think you were, because when you asked me that question, amongst everything that was going on, I'm kind of like, yeah. But then you went a step further to be like, okay, well, let me just see real quick.
Let's check this. Let me check your booty real quick.
Yeah. And I got lots of things in my head. Like, this person wants to see me on the pressure plate, and that person, my brother was there, my friends were there, people that I've known for years, I haven't had a chance to connect with yet. I'm in this moment where it was like, I had a great question, I had gave a response, and then you're like, okay, well, let's see. And then from that, it was like we exchanged information and we stayed in touch, which was a beautiful thing. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because that's what led to you coming over and showing me what you do and me showing you what I do, and so on and so forth. So I think that's an interesting conversation.
All right, so we have to go way back at the beginning. That gives me the crazy gall to walk up to a guy and be like, let me see your butt. Right? Let me see if your butt really works. Right? You're fit, you're athletic, you're very, you have a champion. You're the Ferrari, right? I walked up to the Ferrari and said, how fast does your Ferrari go? And by the way, your tire's blown. Like, how do I get that? So after all the years of me going through things, it gives me not the right, but a false sense. Is like, all right, I know certain people are doing awesome, but how do I get the Ferrari to unhook from the tethers that they don't know that they have? So whenever I see someone like doing their thing, I'm just like, all right, I already know that there's things that they don't know, because they're basing their knowledge off of book knowledge, which is false. And we all starting to really understand that what we've learned in the past isn't completely true. Someone had to learn it from someone that probably got it wrong because one thing happened. And the example for that is we've learned all of our muscle movements from a person called Robert Duchenne. He electrocuted all the muscles of the body to give us the movement patterns. But they did it from a place where you actually electrocute yourself. What your body's actually doing is a concentric movement where it protects itself, right? But a ballerina doesn't move through protective movements. She moves in eccentric movements. It's very graceful. It's open. That's the majority of the movements that we do. But we're training and we're learning through just one lens of what the body can do. And that was the shift for the systems of my body when I went through the energetic, thought I was the top line, got schooled again, learned about the systems of the body based off of the muscular system is not what you think it is. So whenever I see somebody working out and working hard, I was like, all right, you can make things way easier if you understood that every human body is the exact same. Your heart is high and to the left, your liver is low and to the right, which means you propel digestion, which means you're an asymmetrical system inside, and we have dumbed down the world to flatten the world, which means there's going to be pockets of energy inside that body. My whole process is about unwiring that root system that creates a nice torsion inside the body that everyone is starting to piece together parts of the pattern. People notice the spine always twisting. People are noticing the shoulder rotation. People noticing one hand's better than the X. But the biggest one, the one that I was showing you, because I saw you have the majority of the things dialed in, I was like, do you have access to your glutes? Which you did, which now I didn't really ask you and talk to you more about it. I got the answer when I put you on the table is, does your glute and your hamstrings work together and compete with the anterior side? Are you balanced anterior and posterior? Which then you told me about the scoliosis. You told me all that. And I was like, all right, that needs consistent work because this is a natural pattern of the body that we have to cater to, just like sleep. We have to do something consistently to work with the anterior chain, the posterior chain competing with the anterior chain, not being stronger than the anterior chain. They need to compare. But because of the pockets of energy, because we made everything in our world in front of us electrically, we now turn on anterior muscles way more. But if you ever held your arm up and you made a bicep curl, your tricep has to turn down electrically in order for that curl to work, which means you're doing more things in front of you, giving yourself more energy in front of you, turning off things in the back part of you is the simple version.
Yeah, in fitness world, we call that, and I'm sure you know this, but we call that reciprocal inhibition. And I love talking about that because it is a way to access more lengthening if that is what you desire, right? If a person desires to get more stretch or lengthening of certain tissues, you can sort of contract one end so for instance, if you want to get more access to the hamstrings while you're doing a hamstring stretch, you can momentarily activate your quads, which should reciprocally inhibit that lengthening of the backside, the posterior side. And so that's what I hear whenever you're saying that. But what I love about your level of questioning and your level of experience with this is when we got to talking about the electrical muscle stimulation, right? And that was also very interesting because, and I feel like we'll have to do a whole different podcast when we talk about this and when you can experience it more. But that's where, when you were speaking about Duchenne and how he contracted, I think it was a frog, right? I think, or at least people. I know, what was people. It? Oh, it was people. Okay. Because I know in the early days of electrical muscle stimulation, they used frogs, and they were able to show that even if, a frog leg was completely separate from the living frog, you could still activate it. So we know that muscle fibers can still activate with a stimulus. And so what we've done with the suit that we came out with is we've done a few things to make it more biologically available to the body, to make it to simulate what the body would naturally do in a very unnatural way, right? So I think where I would like to take this, because you just explained some very interesting things that will cause people to think, okay, what are some of the things that you see when you start working with someone to get them to kind of turn on? Because I know part of your process at the beginning of this conversation was you learn something, but then we go back into this habit of unlearning, right? Okay. So can you touch on that? Like, what would you do with someone that has, scoliosis or whatever?
So there's two major things that need to happen, but this is the fun part. Once you do one, it automatically does the second.
Mm-hmm.
if you do it, if you're aware of it. So when I know I walk up to another human being, I know there's going to be the hip torsion, the back twist. I already know that's going to happen because you're have this. Let's actually show you this. This is the geeky stuff that we're going to say. Trigger warning: if you're not used to seeing any body parts, please don't look. But as you can see, this is what I was talking about before, where your heart is high and to the left, liver is low and to the right, which then propels digestion. But this muscle right here is your hip flexors that go up and has fibers attaching to your diaphragm, which diaphragm looks like this.
That's the top down view. Yeah.
This is your hip flexor. So it's looking like this. Right? So that's your hip flexor. Every time you breathe, you give electrical energy to that hip flexor. Those hip flexors naturally start to roll you forward. But because we live in a flat world, that rolling forward starts to happen more and more, which then triggers different neural aspects of your brain to go more fight or flight. It starts to protect because it has more attachments to your primitive brain. So then it starts turning off your mind. It turns off your frontal lobe because there's more happening. So the more times you're in this position, or this position, or this position, which is texting, sitting down, all those things feed that. And then you don't want to open up. So the first thing I have to do is get a person to understand that's going to happen naturally. Our job is we have to feed the posterior chain so you now become more open, turning on posterior fiber muscles, which then turns on your frontal lobe. So this is how I give more people more time. I enhance their time because now once you're in this frontal lobe place, you see the world completely different from a joyous state, from a community state where you want to open, you want to make relationships, you enhance your time, especially with kids. I work with a lot of parents, especially with your kids. Then I give you more energy because the more posterior fibers turn on, the more muscle fibers give you energy. The more movement that you have, the more full range of motion movement you have, the more access you have to your natural rechargeable battery, which is your muscles. Once you get those turned on, then you make more money naturally because you're happier, you're connecting more, and you're open more, and you're attached to your passions, which then I have to understand a person to now align that with how they make money, with what they want to do if they're happy with themselves. Makes sense? I already know it's going to happen if I can get certain set of muscles to turn on. Something in your feet to turn on, get you grounded. And this is what got me really into grounded. Get your intrinsic muscles of your feet to turn on, which then changes the load of your, I'm going to get real geeky real fast, your stability versus mobility aspect of your body. So if I can get your feet to turn on, your ankles loosen up. Your ankles loosen up, turns your knees into the hinge joint it's supposed to be. The hinge joint allows the hips to now become movable. Spine goes from stable to mobile to stable to mobile. Then allows your shoulders to be mobile, elbows to be stable, a wrist to be mobile, the part of your hand stable, mobile, right? All these things go back in line once you do one. So I'm always looking at how does a person's feet work, how does a person's hip range of motion works, which then shows me how well their back is going to respond, how well their core works, and how well their shoulder works. So my morning routine that I teach everyone from the on start is the beginning part of everything. And I'm going to give you guys access to that at the end of this. I'll give you access to it. That will be the thing that I'm always looking at. So the fact that you already were showing me about Barefoot, and I already did my analysis once I looked at you, I was like, oh, his feet works really, really well. I was at the booth because I wanted to add in the grounding plus the Barefoot stuff. That's what I was at. I was like, do you have that yet? So I was geeking out on that. But once I look at a person's feet, then I work my way up the chain and say, how well does your glute work? What I was doing in the moment for you was not only did you show me your glute work, I want to see how well your glute and your hamstrings were functional together. And that's what I was going to say. How well is the Barefoot shoe actively turning on the posterior chain to balance out the anterior chain? That's what I was looking for. And it didn't make sense because I know without taking the hip torsion out, bringing it back in, that won't turn on and stay on. So the fact that it was on, I knew you were up to something else, which then I came into your house and found all the goodies.
Yes.
I found all the things.
This is, first of all, thank you for explaining that the way you did, because I don't know if I should say struggle, but I have this challenge of trying to get people to understand why something as simple as being more barefoot can actually enhance your overall life. And you just explained it in a very scientific, deep way. And this is what I mean, right? And so I had a buddy of mine who's also now a Vivo Pro, and he's a dancer, okay? He's someone that is very high level, works with lots of dancers. Most dancers, as you pointed out earlier, know their body very well. And I got him involved with Vivo Barefoot, and he started to use the shoes. And one of the things that he came back to me was like, he was like, "Hey, bro, I don't know if this is just me or if I did something wrong." He said, "But I got the shoes, love the fit. Thank you. We had to get the sizing right for him and whatever." And he came back to me and said, "So I went for a run and did a little workout in it. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? He didn't go for like a marathon or anything or sprinting or anything crazy." He said, "But I feel muscles in my lower legs in ways that I've never felt before." He was like, "I don't know what is going on." He said, "But my calves are on fire." And I said, "Okay, this is important." And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because I want anybody that's listening to this point to truly understand that when you go from being in conventional shoes for most of your life, which usually means narrow and thick soles, so inflexible shoes, narrow toe box, we are essentially not allowing our feet to move the way they're supposed to move. Also, we're not allowing the sensory input that our body craves from those sensory receptors in the bottom of the feet. They're designed to take in input to then activate our brain, which is what you just pointed out, right? And when we can also get that sensory input and activate more musculature, now we start to think, well, wait a minute. I've taken off my shoes. My calves feel like I just did 2 days worth of calf exercises, which then should allow you to start thinking what's happening up the chain. And it all starts from the ground up. So I thank you for sharing that, because this is something that is super important. And what I try to do with educating the masses when it comes to all things Vivo Barefoot and minimal shoes. So thank you.
If I can go a little bit deeper into that,
please.
We talked about reciprocal inhibition. We talked about things like that, but a lot of people are forgetting about the concept of sensory motor amnesia. Now,
that's what I have you here for.
Sensory motor amnesia is a big thing that a lot of people forget all about because it's amnesia, right? When your body is using a muscle's fiber, it's also burning the neural load in there. It's burning this pathway of turning this muscle when this action happens. So when it's doing that, it's now emitting all the some other muscle fibers that's inside of that muscle group. So all you're using is muscle fibers in, like, if your muscle is a 3D muscle, right? You're only using parts of your muscle fiber. And I'm being very, very simple at this point just to get the diagram, right? So it's a round object that's using just the top half, and it's forgetting about the rest of the muscle fiber. When you overload the muscle, it might want to turn something on. When you get a massage, get something deep tissue work, and you start touching other aspects of the muscle, the brain says, "Oh wait, there is more muscle fiber here," and it starts to utilize it. But the neural load and the pattern is for these 4 muscles out of the 10 billion to work, and it's only using those 4. So unless you consistently start to work with those muscles, that's when it works. And it starts to feel better for long term, and it stays on. And this is where the problem lies. Because of sensory motor amnesia, people don't know it exists. You don't know what you don't have. Right? So people don't "Oh, I can turn on my glutes when I do this." And they have to really focus, and they're arching their back and they're doing things. Or even when they're wearing their barefoot stuff and they're walking, they're now starting to turn on muscle fibers that's not used to it. So they have to think about this as a conditioning world, or else they'll go into the negative side of working out. They'll do things because you're no longer working. You're not in this 2-hour workout, 12-hour rest cycle that we do when we think about working out. I work out 2 hours a day, if that, 1 hour a day. And then I live my life, which is, in their mind, their rest. But the way that I shift my clients is, the moment that you wake up, that's your workout. And the way that I shift them from that is saying, we are not in this society. We are hunter and gatherers. You have to think, the farther you can go for food, the more likely you're going to live. So if I look at I use Aura. I tell my clients, if I look at my tracker, right? And I say, I'm running 15 miles, or I've been averaging, I was kicking my butt yesterday. I was only at 8 miles yesterday. Like I went 8 miles for food and my wife went 10. I was like, bitch, damn, she got me. She got more food than me because that extra 2 miles can be the make or break moment for us. So all I look at is how much mileage is my body able to do? Not I'm able to do it once. I was like, I do that on a religious basis. No, I don't like that word. On a constant basis of me going out and foraging for food. My body's conditioned for it.
And I just want to butt in for a moment. I if I'm hearing you correctly, you're not talking about going out and running 8 or 10 miles. You're talking about moving, right?
Correct.
Like this is what I point out in my book, the awareness shift, which is this concept of quality activeness over quality exercise, right? So I just wanted to
correct. So this is optimizing the body. So this is the other reason why I love reading your book as well as talking with you, because we have so many synergies in that way. So optimizing your body is how well is your posterior chain able to compete with the anterior chain? And then how well are you conditioned utilizing that and integrating it into your life? So the way that I get people to now integrate it is like, all right, we're staying at a desk. What you probably see me move around a lot. I'm sitting on a grounding pad and I'm doing this. We try to talk. I'm think all the time. I'm actually like, there's so many small things. I was like, I'm sitting down like this. I'm talking with you. I'm having fun. Like I'm always activating my body in a way where my body's actively doing something. And it's something simple that way. That's where you have to now get people to go to learn how to utilize their body and condition their body through the concept of your body's going to do the same thing because you're symmetrical inside. Specific muscle tissues are going to turn off. And your suit, that's where I was going with the reason why I was so amped on getting your suit is because you have a model, a button, let's call it, that now can go depths inside of the muscle. So now I don't have to completely make a person hit a wall and find that wall where the body's like, I can't do anymore. And it needs to activate more muscle fibers inside the group. I could just hit a button, jack it up a little bit, and they can now process that and get it not naturally, manually, and not need to do it consistently to get it. So I could turn on more light switches to prevent a catastrophic issue or an injury whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's going to be beautiful when it goes to the market and you're going to start giving the PTs. If you know the stuff that I'm about to tell you, holy crap, you'll eradicate a lot of people's issues and get healing to happen like in a monsoon manner.
Yeah, one of those things you just described is one of the reasons why whenever I first got introduced to the world of EMS was that we have the capacity to be able to target the fast twitch muscle fibers right away, which in the conventional sense of training, we usually have to burn through those type 1 fibers to be able to get to the type 2s, so, or, we have to do a certain amount of work before those fast twitch fibers come in, and not everybody's capable of doing that. Right. And so what I loved about what you were explaining earlier is this idea I like to call progressive loading, right? Some people call it progressive overloading, but if we're always overloading a system, then I think we should expect there to be some kind of breakdown, right? Unless we're recovering properly. And that's why I like to position quality activeness over quality exercise. Both of them are important. The whole system, the whole 5 pillars that I like to, talk about in my book, the whole system is important, but there is like a triage effect. And so we can be far more active than we should ever exercise, right?
Correct.
So,
but going back into training, and when I had a big PT phase where I was just like, I have to help PTs because they need to understand this, as well as personal trainers. I was like, yes, you're putting them through all that. Yes, you're doing all the right things, but you're forgetting the root fundamental thing. They have sensory motor amnesia. You are now training all the same muscles that they already have the neural load that's way too much. You now need to get these other muscles firing off, which means these things need to be in line first. Your hips need to be dialed in a specific way in order for the glute to actually stay on and not utilize the piriformis over the glute, upper glute, not to overwire the glute med to work so much. And that's why so many people afterwards say, I hurt my back, this and that. I don't know why. I work out all the time. I was like, all right, because you're missing the root fundamental things. Yes, you're doing the right thing. And this is why I love working with Ferraris, is because all I have to do is take off one little aspect and that e-brake comes off.
Let me just let me show you something real quick, because for everyone watching, I've got this this device called a Vasia, and Patrick has a similar device in the same world of microcurrents. And this is a microcurrent device. And whenever you came over, because as people probably know, I have so many tools and toys that I can play with, and sometimes I forget to work on something because I'm usually, trying something else that's new and innovative. But this little device right here basically helps to directly explain what you just explained, right? Or directly show what you just explained, which is when we have pain, we experience, inflammation or problems within our system. Sometimes we don't know what needs to be turned on and what needs to be turned off, or turned up versus turned down. This device does exactly that. All right. And I know that you and I didn't get a chance to go through this because, we ended up having to cut the gathering short. But the next time, next time we get together, I want to show you this specifically because I did this with that couple that I told you that was here. So what this will do is you can take measurements all throughout the system of the body, right? So there's these little, these electrode points, right? And you turn this on and you get a measurement of the voltage of the tissues in the specific spot, right? Now, if you put on gloves, attach it to a conductive gloves or conductive socks, it'll measure that whole area, right? And with the wife, her name is Lisa, when she was here, she was saying that she has a lot of pain in a certain part of her hand because she just had surgery, and she was wanting to know, like, what should she do about it? And she had a very high reading in the hand. Okay, well, that makes sense because she had just had surgery. And so a lot of times you would think that, like, okay, this area needs to be turned down because it's inflamed. It probably needs to be turned down. But when I did the measurements and the readings, it was showing that parts of her hand needed to be turned on, needed to be turned up. So I gave her this, and we let her use this while her husband was doing the hyperbaric chamber, and I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, her hand was completely healed, but it opened up her brain. And I think it unlocked that sensory amnesia thing that you're talking about, right? For the first time, we were able to give her body what it needed at that time, that day and that time.
That's cellular. That's cellular. Sensory motor amnesia is on the muscular world. This is on the cellular world. You're not talking. I was going to stop that thought, but this is how simple, but how complex it can get. We just talked about the muscular world and generating electrical energy through the muscular system. You went into the cellular world and what cells need to actually learn how to heal. So think about a builder. You hire all the best builders in the world. Like, yes, my house is going to be awesome. And then you forget the screws. Like, what are they going to do? You have all these things here. And that's what was happening. She didn't have everything that she needed to make the healing stick and happen rapidly. So you added in extra voltage in the areas that it needed. So now the builders are, now we got screws. Now we got all the tools and raw materials are here. Let's go to town. And that's when the body starts working. So that's on the cellular world. But on the muscular world, and this is, they both need to be played with. And that's optimizing the body. You have to get the muscular world working. You have to get the cellular world working, as well as you have to taper down the emotional world. Because all this, like, one of the examples that I tell you, and I'm going to move on a little bit, is how the nervous system works. I tell people about resilience. Let's stay with Lisa for a second. Resilience is the way that your nervous system opens and closes. So when your nervous system is open and expands, you're open, you're happy, you're good. When it's compressed and tight, it can't do anything besides protect itself. You can't even find, like, if I told you something is broken here because this won't work, you won't be able to find it unless you're able to open it, right? And that's the other thing. When you're too open and you don't have great boundaries, you have a weak link and it's just going to get triggered and it's going to spring back down. So you want resiliency where your body, your nervous system is supposed to do it anyway, open and close. So now we talk about the cellular world. Now we talk the muscular world. If your nervous system is not on a low, a high and a low, you're never going to truly get healing, because if she was worried about anything, your body's naturally going to contract, which now muscle tissue doesn't move. Electrical aspects doesn't flow as well. Think about a hose clamping down on the water because it's so tight. Any one of your arteries just doesn't. That's where high blood pressure comes from. One of the reasons, right? Because we're so tight muscularly that our body has to really push up to get there. And that's also with migraines and headaches, mainly headaches, but migraines could be in that world
Part of
where I
that,
cleared
yeah.
up a lot of migraines by getting their necks to stop pressurizing, as well as using that device and doing something inside the neck, which I have to tell you about. That's my rant with that. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. It's, you know, here's the thing. Obviously, I'm gonna have to have you back on for sure, because as people can see and hear, we can go on and on and on. But that's what I love about you is that, you know, we've built this relationship over a short period of time that I think is going to go far and wide, and I think we can really together help a lot of people. And I hope that this episode is going to drive more traffic to what you're doing. And, you know, and I know there's so many things we want to talk about. I'm going to put a lot of this information of Patrick's website, which is patricklerouge.com. PATRICKLEROUGE.com. So that's obviously going to be in the show description. He alluded to his morning routine, and I want to be able to show so much more. And I kind of want to leave this like a cliffhanger. So anything else that we would have talked about, let's do it again, right? But I want to ask you a question. I want to get outside of the box a bit. Of all the things that we've been talking about so far and everything that you've been doing, what are your thoughts about what you would do if you could no longer do what you're doing now? What would you be doing?
Now, may I ask, am I financially free? Am I financially wealthy? Do I have my kids? Like, what are the, like,
that's up to you.
Give me some more context.
No, that's up to you. Because the reason why I like to ask questions like that is to kind of understand what drives a person, right? Because yes, of course, everything you're doing today, everything I'm doing today, it drives me to do what I do. However, you know, I think another passion of mine is comedy. And I don't know if I would be a comedian necessarily, but the appreciation I have for comedy is because I find that good comedians are those that can take complex information and make it funny. Right?
Okay.
And so I don't know if it's not anything profound or whatever. It doesn't have anything to do with how much money I would be making or how famous I would be. But if I wasn't a trainer, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, what else would I spend my time and focus on? And I think that's one of the things. So
I go two routes. One, I go the selfish route. Like, this is where you would go on the mountaintop and say, oh, the selfish way. I'm like, I would like to go, Dr. Bush, he's working with dirt.
Zach Bush, yeah, of course.
Zach Bush working on dirt. I want to go out and garden and learn about that. Have my own compound where it's off-site living.
You want to have a cult? I get it. Right.
All right. Fine. I'll make my little cult. People happy and merry, and people like, yay! How you doing, buddy? And they're like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so happy? Because we're living. Yeah, like kind of like the hippies.
Yeah.
Kind of like, but yes, I want to be able to do that. But the second part of me, the bigger part of me, is start helping kids break a lot of the generational stuff that they have. So if I wasn't doing, I guess that's part of what I'm doing now, because I'm helping people with each pillar that I have. I have a unique way of doing it. I have the treatment that you showed me for the body that works within 45 minutes, reset the whole body muscularly. I have my Sexacellar has something called Shake and Shift, which takes down the nervous system and reprograms brain tissue. And I have something on the spiritual side as well that gets persons spiritually aligned and opened up to receive more. So the question is, what would I do if I did not? This is a good question. What would I do if I did not have any of those things, but I still have my skill set? Actually, I would travel, because I'm with my kids more, and that world map of yours really kicked me in a place I was just like, damn, I'm not doing that. It's one of the things I want to do. I want to actually learn about other people's cultures. I want to go and see the temples, because the temples are in the south. I was like, no. I was like, why are they there? What else? Like, on that level, be curious on that level. I think that's what I would do if I could do anything else, which I really don't. I want to do, but I don't really. I haven't really prioritized as much as I want to.
Well, then, one last question. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a bonus at the end of this. But one last question. Do you think we are alone in this universe?
Why would you? Man, what man? You trying to get me canceled or something, bro? I do believe that we are not alone, mainly because every time I think I know something, I realize I know nothing at all. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the fact that I could even think we're the only ones there, that one thought process based off the experiences I've had said, there's something bigger. There's something bigger. There's something bigger. Now, do I believe like there's going to be an alien invasion? I'm not going to say that, but I do not believe we're alone. And I don't believe we're the smartest ones. And let's get really controversial if we're going to go there. I do believe our ancestors were way smarter than us and they got wiped out or something, because I don't know how they are able to do the pyramids and all the things that people are starting to look into. And like, how did that get there? Like tons and tons and tons and tons. And it's like 10 tons is one brick, right? For those pyramids. How did they get it up there? They were way smarter than us, or somebody else helped them.
Exactly.
That's the way that I feel. So do I believe that there's something else out there? Yeah. But there's based off of my experience, every time I've learned something, there's something bigger that I'm not aware of. So that's the main reason. I'm not Andrew Dice Tyson or Degrassi or whatever. I'm not
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I'm just like a person that's going through my own thing and saying, that's what I believe.
Well, if you guys are as excited about having Patrick on the show as I am, stay in touch, because I have no doubt that we'll have him back on the show, and just stay tuned on some of the things we're going to be doing together. And he has graciously offered the viewers, the audience of this show, his morning routine. And so I'm going to share that here on the screen, and then we'll have that in the show notes so you can access that. But here's a way to see it. So I'm pulling it up on the screen now. You see that there's a lot of things that you could do with this. And if you're looking for a new sort of morning routine, a way to kind of shake up all that you do to kind of optimize your life, your career, your spirituality, everything, reach out to him, reach out to me if you need to. And Patrick, what are some other ways people can be in touch with you?
So I'm on social media, mainly LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. But I will say I'm not on it often, like me not checking it, because I like to be in touch with somebody. So you would go to PatrickLaRouge.com, hit the lovely little button on the bottom right-hand side, and it's going to go straight through to me. And I can talk with you, because I like to text and talk with people instantly and find out the root of everybody's issue. And that's what that's the whole point of this. Like, so many people have so many barriers to entry. I have to say, like, the easiest thing to do is like, all right, so what's up? I have pain. Where? What did you try? It's those simple things that happen, and I can give you the answer relatively simple, or give you a pathway relatively simple. That's the easier way. But may I jump back to the morning routine real quick?
Please.
What he just showed you was something that I give all my clients to start off with. So yes, it's a free gift. I know 100% of my being, people don't really respect things that are free because they didn't have any barrier to entry. I'm telling you, that's not this. This is going to be very simple. This is going to be, you can do it in less than 15 minutes once you get used to it and practice it, and it will reset how your body works, because I teach you how to get your body, your feet in line. I teach you how to get your hips in line, how to get your core dialed in with your chest and your upper body, and then get you to start looking and seeing your day. Just those, it says 5 small video series, which is 5 videos. After that, you should be able to do it in 15 minutes, and it will recharge your whole morning and day if you take advantage of it. Now, that's the whole key. I can bring you to it, but unless you actually do it and hone it and integrate it into your life, it won't really work. So please reach out. I'm a wealth of information. Just ask a question, and I'm here to help.
I appreciate that. And also one other little small thing that maybe you probably didn't even have the wherewithal to mention. I'll mention it for you. Patrick is also a Vivo Pro. So he has a code that you can use to, if you want to go out and purchase some shoes, especially the grounding boot, right? Like if you're into any of the things we talked about when it comes to the feet, feel free to use Patrick's code, which is the letter U. So it's U evolved. So UEVOLVED, and that'll get you a discount. Go and check out the shoes on the site. And Patrick, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to keeping in touch and talking very soon. And until next time, peace, bro.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.